There's one thing that we all have in common, and that's that we want what we want. And some of us want it right now. Have you ever wondered about those people who are really very skilled at consistently getting exactly what they want? What's their secret? Well, I don't necessarily know about them, but I do know about FBI hostage negotiators. Talk about people who are masters of influence. You can use their techniques in your everyday life to influence others so that you do get what you want, and you can get it right now. That's the topic of this video, so if you want to learn more, stick around.
GILD Coaching. More success, less stress.
All of us want what we want. And all of us also want to figure out how to get other people to give us what we want. So how do you do that? Well, there are 5 steps in a psychological model that's been developed by the FBI's Hostage Negotiation Unit. Talk about somebody who knows what they're doing. Those people talk crazy folks into and out of exactly what they want all the time. The sticky part of this is you already know the 5-step model. I promise. You already know every single one of these steps. But you're screwing it up because you're starting in the wrong place. Today, I'm going to go over each one of these steps with you and tell you where you're messing up so you can stop messing up. Tell you where you're supposed to start so that you can go through these 5 steps and start getting what you want. Let's take a look at the model. Here it is. These are the 5 steps. And like I said, you know all of these. The first step is active listening. This means that you are actively listening to the other person's side of the situation and that you're making them aware that you're listening. What you're not doing during this step is formulating what your response is going to be before the person finishes their statement. That's very important, and that's one way people usually mess this up. The second step is empathy. You get an understanding of where they're coming from and how they feel, and you find a way to relate with them in some way. The third step, rapport. Empathy has to do with what you're feeling. Rapport is when they feel it back. So if you can figure out what they're feeling and give them a sense that you are able to feel it back and understand them, they start to trust you, and then you can start to communicate to them your feeling so they can feel it back as well. The fourth step is influence. Now that this person trusts you, you have done something that I call ETR, earn the right. Nobody's going to let you work on a problem with them, solving it or anything else, unless you've earned the right to work on it with them. Then they will allow you to help recommend a course of action. And then the 5th point is behavioral change. That means they act. They do what you want because you have followed these 5 steps, and they come out with their hands up. Okay, so maybe people aren't going to come out with their hands up with you. Obviously, you're not going to be negotiating with someone who's holding other people hostage. We're just talking about getting that vacation that you wanted that was rejected, or having your spouse agree to a purchase that's just a little bit more than you think that he or she is going to agree to. You know, we're talking about just everyday things. So you understand the 5 steps. They seem very intuitive, right? The problem is you're likely doing them wrong. Even though we understand how important active listening, empathy, and rapport are in a situation, most people skip these 3 steps. They jump straight here from ground zero and go whoop all the way up here to influence. Well, what's the problem? What are you missing here between rapport and influence? Have you figured it out? You're missing that key ingredient that I talked about earlier. Those 3 letters, ETR. You haven't earned the right to influence yet. So let's just think of a hypothetical situation. Let's say it is your office place, and let's say you did get a vacation request rejected, and you're thinking, geez, I've already bought the tickets to Hawaii. What am I gonna do? I'm going. Oh, I'm going. And so you're very upset. So you make an appointment with your boss and you go in there to make your case. And all of a sudden you just walk in and you say, listen, Mr. Smith, you have got to approve this request because blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you a couple things. Number one, bosses do not reject vacation requests lightly. When I first became a manager, I asked my three mentors, my three managing mentors, what their top 3 pieces of advice were. And all 3 of them had one common piece of advice within their top 3. I'm going to give it to you. Never forget it because it's true. They said, never mess with people's money and time off. So please believe me when I say bosses do not mess with your vacation time lightly, because they know that that is a sure way to make employees mad and have them look for another job, and nobody wants that. They want long-term employees so that they don't have all that turnover and all that. Anyway, let's say that your boss had a really good reason for rejecting your vacation request, and this has happened to me before. So let's say your boss has a really good reason for rejecting your vacation request. You can't just walk in there and then just start at step 4 because it's not going to work. You have to have an understanding of what the other person is thinking. You skipped active listening. Then you have to learn a time that that person had a similar situation and you have to feel what they're feeling. Are you seeing what I'm doing? I started at the bottom step. You've got to work your way up because when we jump straight to step 4, we are not going to Maui. I'll tell you that much right now. Here's the problem. This is a quote by Chris Voss. He is the former head of FBI International Hostage Negotiations. So this dude knows what he's doing. He says that the big problem is that when we launch into a business negotiation, we try to pretend like there's no emotion involved because it's business. But if you've already bought your tickets to visit Maui with your family and your vacation request gets rejected, that is very emotional. I always like to remind people that because people are in business, emotions exist in business. And Chris Voss agrees. You can see that he says that's fiction when it comes to negotiation. You have to take people's emotions into account. And that is why the first step in this process is so very important. And just a refresher, that first step is active listening. The problem there is most people are really terrible at listening. And I know that because my job is to talk to people all day long and help them solve their problems. Usually, when I'm giving a little bit of feedback, I can hear the moment when somebody stops listening, and I can feel the moment when somebody stops listening. That's because they've taken in just a little bit of what I've said to them, and they're already formulating their response. Don't do that. Take a deep breath. Do not interrupt the person at all. Never interrupt them. Nod, give them some visual affirmation that you're listening. Say things like, yes, oh, okay. And give them a little bit of verbal affirmation that you're actually listening to them. Also, you have to repeat back to them what they're saying. Don't do it in kind of one of those annoying little kid ways where they're repeating everything that you're saying and you're like, stop it. Do it in such a way like this. I want to make sure that I'm fully understanding you. So can I repeat back what I'm understanding that you're saying just to make sure that I've got it? And then repeat back to them. People love hearing themselves quoted. And when you do it like that, it's soft, it's understanding, and it's proof that you're actively listening. The 4th way that you can practice active listening is by asking follow-up questions. Not that you've been thinking about the whole time, but follow-up questions so that they can elaborate on their point. Ask them for details. When you want details, then that means that you're really very interested. If you're going online to buy a pair of shoes and you see a pair of shoes that you want, you click on that because you want more details about the shoes. How is the stitching? Where are they from? Are they real leather? How much does it cost to have them shipped? All of those things. So that's you inquiring for more information. And the only reason that you inquire for more information is because you're interested. And the questions that you ask matter. Look up at your screen. Do not ask questions with yes or no answers. You want to ask something such as, that sounds really tough. Tell me how that happened. Or, wow, I've never heard of anything like that. How did that make you feel? Make them open up to you. That's the whole point. And also, never underestimate the importance of effective pauses. I'm not talking about the silent treatment here. I'm talking about strategically using pauses for effect. People do not like silence. So this helps you to diffuse a situation if the other person is highly emotional or if the conversation isn't necessarily going the way that you want it. See, don't you want to know what comes next? Inserting an effective pause forces the other person to think of some way to fill that gap, because what the other person wants to do is to continue communicating. They want to influence you to their side of the fence. You want to influence them to your side of the fence. Here's another really important point when it comes to making sure that you're not tossing out the importance of emotion in every negotiation. You have to label their emotions. And what that means is that you are going to give the feelings a name. This is a graphic I recently posted along with a blog post on GILDcoaching.com. And you can find the link to that blog post in the video description below. And we can also send you this graphic if you would like to have it in a higher resolution for yourself. The point of this graphic is that if you can identify either your current emotion, if you're in a bad mood or having a bad day, or you can identify another person's emotion, it helps to diffuse the situation because it helps you to get a real perspective on how bad it is or that it's not that bad. For example, if you're feeling really, really down and low, you can go and look at this and you can say, well, am I hopeless? No, so maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there's some guilt there. Well, no. Insecurity? Maybe not. Revengeful? No, not revengeful. Discouraged? Yeah, discouraged. I'm feeling discouraged. Okay, well, you can see that you're almost halfway up the ladder, so things aren't necessarily that bad. When you can state to somebody a specific emotion that you're relating to what they're saying, it's going to make them feel heard and understood. And isn't that what we all want? When someone feels heard and understood, they are a lot more likely to give in to something that you want because you have ETR'd. You have earned the right. And that is the key to getting what you want. Before you go, click subscribe and that little bell so that you will learn the next time that we post a video to help you live a more successful life with lower stress. And always check the video description below because I pack it full of freebies just for you. This is Dr. Jane with GILD Coaching at GILDcoaching.com. See you next time.